She continues with, I've started to feel this natural repulsion to stuff made by men, but more specifically, therapy or advice given by men, movies, books, and podcasts, except books that were highly recommended by other women, like Why Does He Do That? Okay, but what I want to hone in on is the entertainment aspect, movies, shows, and everything. And this goes right into a rant from Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld is highly irritated. Back in his heyday, what used to be funny and get chuckles doesn't really bode well today. And one of the things about Jerry Seinfeld and other sitcoms, they never really set very well with me. And honestly, it's because alabaster humor doesn't really hit as funny for me. But also, the inappropriateness in which they came for women didn't really sit well for me as well. Things like movies from the 80s and 90s were highly inappropriate. Things that were funny back in the 80s and 90s were typically written by men. So what they see as humorous is not always going to hit for women. And what the lighter complected people see as funny isn't always going to hit for the more melanated crowd. It just and then for things like his show and Friends and other Sex in the City, which I actually used to watch, like these shows hardly ever had black folks in it. So it's like, yeah, so what is going on with the people that used to be in? They are being replaced by other narratives, by other groups that are telling their stories. And those voices used to be suppressed. So now black women are writing stories. Other just non-white women are writing stories. Other folks of color, men that are not white, are writing stories. And it's replacing these voices that dominated because now there is an outlet for it. And these people, these alabaster males, are feeling aggrieved because now we don't have just their stuff to pick from. We can choose from other people's content, and we're choosing other people's content that is funnier than them. He says it's because of the extreme left and PC culture, but also we didn't really have too many choices back in the 90s and early 2000s. We have choices today. So now let's talk about this article. Jerry Seinfeld says TV comedy is being unalived by the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Jerry Seinfeld said in an interview with The New Yorker while touting his feature directorial effort, Unfrosted, that PC crap and the extreme left is making television comedy go extinct. Seinfeld is a sitcom icon thanks to his eponymous NBC sitcom that ran between 1989 and 1998. But he says viewers no longer flock to their television sets in order to get their comedy fix like they did for decades. Now, sitcom comedy typically was what? An unlikable or very like unattractive or overweight male that was able to get away with so much crap, talking to his wife bad, calling her names, calling her a ball and chain, not wanting to do stuff in the household, who got to be lazy, who got to sit up and put his feet up. I know that you are imagining what I am talking about if you watched TV back in the late 80s and early 90s and even up to the 2000s. You know that these men were unlikable and they wrote these stories and they were totally inappropriate. They always made women the nags for wanting men to do their fair share in the household. And we are in a world where women can actually choose not to engage in that. And I think that programming, because TV was programming people, it actually programmed men to think that this kind of stuff was appropriate. That's the reason why so many men in general, not just Jerry Seinfeld, are having this, what the heck is going on? Why are women not flocking to me anymore? Why are women not allowing us to get away with it? Because we are moving away from the programming of TV. We are moving away, and women are making more and more entertainment. So we don't have to get programmed by these male voices. He continues with, nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly and they don't get it, Seinfeld says. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day. Most people would go, oh, Cheers is on. Oh, MASH is on. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on. All in the Family is on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Now, look at the names of the comedy shows, the sitcoms he listed. All white cast, all white. Why? And this is just his way of, skirting around the fact that there is actually diversity in TV today. And we don't have to just choose to sit down in front of scripts written by audience polices us. We know when we're off track. We know instantly and we adjust to it instantly. But when you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thoughts about this joke. Well, that's just the end of your comedy. So basically another joke. They move the gates like in the slalom culture. The gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate. Okay, so now today, yes, we would see someone like Kramer using homeless people as laborers, as exploitative, because we have different words today. Using people that are underprivileged, or, it's just not going to hit as funny. These people are so oblivious to their privilege. They really thought that, punching down on women and underprivileged people was going to last. Now, I, as a Black woman, can't even watch the shows that used to go as comedy in the Black community anymore, because a lot of it was jokes degrading women, specifically jokes degrading dark skinned Black women. And, men dressing up in women's clothes to make fun of us. I can't watch that without the misogynoir, the just jumping out at us, how they see us in exaggerated caricatures. And it's just not funny to me. So yes, he is absolutely right. Comedy today was not comedy back then, because there are more voices and we don't have to laugh at stereotypes anymore. Sign further suggesting that television networks are no longer interested in doing anything that will ruffle feathers and offend the PC crowd. With his Netflix movie Unfrosted set to stream in May, Seinfeld has been making the press rounds for a few weeks and giving his blunt thoughts on the state of Hollywood. He proclaimed the movie business is over. In a recent interview with GQ magazine, film doesn't occupy the pinnacle of in the social cultural hierarchy that it did for most of our lives. When a movie came out, if it was good, we all went to see it, we all discussed it, we quoted lines and scenes we liked. Now we're walking through a fire hose of water just trying to see. So what, if anything, has replaced film? Depression, malaise, I would say confusion, disorientation replaced the movie business, Seinfeld answered. He is really upset. He's really upset that people just don't find them funny. And y'all, there are so many content creators that are so funny, because we get to talk to people on the ground. These people are so far removed from what people find funny. That's the reason why people are no longer tuning in and are no longer interested. I want y'all to weigh in on this.
Nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly, and they don't get it. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day, most people would go, oh, Cheers is on, oh, MASH is on, oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on, All in the Family's on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Mm-hmm. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy. They move the gates, like in skiing. Yeah. Culture, the gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate.
This boycotting men post definitely got some commentary, and I want to share some of the comments with you. Lola says, I can't help but draw the correlation between sexism and racism as well. We are socialized to accept or perpetrate the patriarchy, just like we are socialized to accept and perpetuate racism. Once we also begin to address the commonalities and similar themes, the closer we'll come to the crux of the issue, and then we can begin to move forward and fight both. And like I said before, this is definitely programming, and they use the laughter, they use the laugh tracks to make this stuff seem normal when it's not normal, when sexism and racism should not be normal, but they sprinkle it in as far like a joke. And like we've been saying, male humor is laced with their truth. That is the reason why this stuff is not funny to some of us that are in tuned to decentering men, decentering the patriarchy, and obviously decentering and a natural aversion to bigotry. So this person at the bottom says, I still contend that the reason the most hated characters are women is because men write them. And, now that we have women that are writing female leads, you can see the clear delineation or the clear shift of when men were writing about women and then when women are writing female leads. It is stark. If we go back and watch some of the things from the 90s, the patriarchy is just going to jump off of the screen. Sarah says, Jane Austen said that she'd never include a conversation between only men in her books because she'd never been privy to how they talk on their own. Problem is, many men are so arrogant they think they understand women, what motivates us, how we think, how we interact, without ever taking the time to know and understand us. This could also be said for white people writing Black characters when they are not privy to our conversations and they don't even try. That is the reason why they write us in stereotypes. And then their videos, their movies, their TV shows become entrenched in our culture. And so that's how stereotypes get reinforced. So, like the first commenter said, that is how sexism and racism go hand in hand and are reinforced through our entertainment. Biv says, totally agree on assuming all men are misogynists. That's how they're socialized, and it would take a lot of intentional work to deconstruct the type of man that has done this who has done this is very rare, as in, is very rare that men have deconstructed these socializations. Nice Chicken says, I almost exclusively consume media from women. I mean, you can tell we're not the intended audience for men. They're embarrassed of us, so F them. Krabby Patty says, I often check the writers on shows and movies to see if all the women were written by men. Feral Gremlin says, for the past couple of years, I've only read books by women, and I love it. I started doing that recently for other media consumed. I wish I had done this sooner. Erica says, I never thought about it until now, but subconsciously, I guess I leaned more towards women. Most of my favorite authors and TV shows were by women. Music is pretty even, but my top faves are women. Now for some of the comments on YouTube. Nellie Maria Art says, I'm very wary of male content creators. Even when I think they're cool, the misogyny sometimes jumps out because they are just as programmed by these programs, and it is ingrained. Sexism and racism are baked into the cake of our cultures. The Bible. Let's talk about the Bible because the Bible is programming. Religion is programming as well. And the Bible was written by men for men to control women. So Boomer Dragon says, patriarchy on steroids. Ever notice how scripture supports, endorses, fully subscribes to the patriarchy? Once you start decentering men and saying, yay, let's topple the patriarchy, everything comes across as patriarchy. And that is one of the reasons why, in order to decenter men, you have to deconstruct from religion. Because, yes, in religion, in these Abrahamic churches, there are male leaders in everything talking about scriptures from male people that were male leaders back in the day and reinforcing these roles. So, yes, like the Princess Brat says, it was written by men for men. Most of the writing seems addressed to men. Evergreen Forest Witch said, I have struggled to watch most mainstream media for the past 4 years because I'm boycotting male perspectives. I have transitioned away from streaming and almost exclusively to YouTube so I can get direct female-centered content. There are a few male creators I follow, but I spend much more time on women's content. I both want to amplify women and I am tired of listening to dudes and their boring stories and ideas. Now, when I do see mainstream media, all I see is the misogyny, racism, and capitalism. It all goes hand in hand. And this is the screenshot I'm going to end with. I can't rewatch old movies I loved because I can see all the patriarchy. I read daily, but I've stopped reading books by men. I unsubscribed from them on my social media and scroll past them, especially when they have a podcast. The few I did give leeway to are turning out to be not such a great choice. I watch one podcast that's supposed to be lighthearted, etc., but as the weeks go on and their personalities are revealed more, their misogyny is leaking. And BQ says, once you see it, you can't unsee it. I firmly believe my depression is a rational response to the near constant bombardment of patriarchy and capitalism on my soul. Women, the shift for women is here, and we can't go backwards. It's not going to go backwards. So the men will have to adjust or just get left back in the 90s like Jerry Seinfeld.
Springfield, I'm Kelman P. Gasworth, the president of Pop-Tarts.
I just made a whole movie about Pop-Tarts. What is that?
What Tardy is asking is, are you familiar with the concept of trademark infringement?
That sounds complicated.
You took something of ours, and now we're going to take something of yours. It's our new show, People in Pontiacs Eating Pop-Tarts.
Oh!